Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. Our lead story of the day is regarding yesterday's White House press briefing, where reporters questioned both Karine Jean-Pierre and John Kirby on a variety of topics, from China conducting unsafe maneuvers on our aircraft and ships, to Republicans busing illegal immigrants to Sacramento, and is Joe Biden going to survive a 2024 term? All those questions are being asked in the press briefing. Before we jump into anything, support a true American patriot by hitting that like and subscribe button. Leave us a short, sweet comment down below. The question of the day is, you think Joe Biden is going to survive another term in office? Can't wait to hear from you in the comment section. With that being said, our first segment of the day comes from CBS News White House correspondent Ed O'Keefe, questioning John Kirby on the Chinese conducting these unsafe maneuvers both in sea and air. Hit that like and subscribe button, folks. If you haven't already, let's go ahead and roll it.
John, good to see you. In the span of a week, we've now had two close encounters, one at sea, one in the air with the Chinese military. Are these isolated incidents, or is China becoming more aggressive?
Sadly, Ed, these are part and parcel of an increasing level of aggressiveness by the PLA, the PRC's military, particularly in the area of the Taiwan Straits and in the South China Sea. The air intercept was over the South China Sea, and the maritime intercept that you talk about was in the Straits. And sadly, this is just part, again, of a growing aggressiveness by the PRC that we're dealing with, and we're prepared to address it. You heard Secretary Austin speak to that out at the Shangri-La Dialogue just this past weekend, and we're going to continue to keep the lines open with the Chinese to make it clear how unacceptable those particular intercepts are.
There was that handshake at the Shangri-La conference. Has there been any other conversation between U.S. and Chinese officials about
Well, I think you know we have two officials in Beijing right now. The Senior Director for China, Sarah Bennett Barron here, and Dan Crittenbrink from the State Department are in Beijing as we speak.
I know you have to be very careful about the words you choose, but what is, in describing this, but what is the best way to describe what China is doing in the air and on the seas?
I'll try to give you an answer, but I sure would like to hear Beijing justify what they're doing. That said, these are intercepts. Now look, air and maritime intercepts happen all the time. Heck, we do it. The difference is when we do it, when we feel like we need to do it, it's done professionally, and it's done inside the international law, and it's done in accordance with the rules of the road. These two that you saw recently, and they have happened with more frequency than we'd like. Not all of them are unsafe and unprofessional, but these two were. You saw in the air intercept that they forced our aircraft, an RC-135, to basically go through the jet wash. That you saw the bump in the cockpit. That shows you how close that Chinese fighter was to our jet. And in the maritime intercept in the Taiwan Straits, 150, 140, 150 yards. Speaking as an old sailor myself, I'll tell you that's pretty close when you're in open waters like that. And you could see the head of steam that Chinese vessel had on it as it crossed the bow of one of our destroyers. No call for that. It's unsafe. It's unprofessional. And as to why they're doing it, I think, again, I think that's a great question to ask them. What I would tell you from our perspective is we're flying, we're sailing, we're operating in international airspace and international waters. And both of those incidents were in complete compliance with international law. There was absolutely no need for the PLA to act as aggressively as they did. It won't be long before somebody gets hurt. That's the concern with these unsafe and unprofessional intercepts. They can lead to misunderstandings. They can lead to miscalculations. When you have pieces of metal that size, whether it's in the air or on the sea, and they're operating that close together, it wouldn't take much for an error in judgment or a mistake to get made, and somebody could get hurt. And that's just got to be unacceptable. It should be unacceptable to them as well.
Actually, really great answer coming from John Kirby. I think on a public stage like that, you have to be careful with your words because you never know what China's going to do. But I think there's also the other side of it where Joe Biden is just a weak president. Everybody knows this. And look, the Chinese did this stuff under the Trump administration. They've always done it. And John Kirby even mentioned we do it too. But when we kind of conduct it and other countries conduct it, most of the time it's safe. We're kind of poking the bear on each side. And so I get that idea of it. But what the Chinese are doing is, look, they can get away with it. Joe Biden is weak. I'm surprised China hasn't invaded Taiwan already. You got Russia invading Ukraine because they know they can get away with it. The allies are letting them get away with it. Yeah, we're supplementing the war in some way, shape, or form with military aid and other mechanisms such as strategies and giving them just property. I mean, aircraft, military grade equipment, personnel. We've heard there's actually boots on the ground too. I don't know how true those rumors are. But John Kirby does a phenomenal job here in answering the question. And look, the Chinese are messing around. We saw this with the Iranians before. I can't believe these people have the cojones to sit there and poke the bear a little bit. I mean, shoot a couple rounds off the bow of the ship a little bit here. You never know what kind of stuff that can engage in, though, so you got to be careful with it. But I want to know what you guys think about in the comment section below. If this does happen again, do you think, for example, in the sea, do you think we should shoot a few rounds off the bow? Just kind of, hey, you know what are you doing? We're not going to allow this to happen. Or, I mean, the ship was a little bit, or in other words, the aircraft one was a little bit different because I'm not sure what type of defense systems were on our aircraft compared to their jet. But let me know what you think we should do. Should we just kind of let it go? Because everybody does this. Both sides have done it back and forth before. Let us know in the comment section below. Well, a question gets followed up here regarding this whole debacle on the Chinese basically poking the bear, messing around with both our Navy and our Air Force. And Wonder Woman from Fox News, Jaqui Heinrich, questions John Kirby on the relation between the United States and the Chinese government, but also the fact that we have diplomats there in Tiananmen Square, and if there's any sort of connection between the two taking place. Let's go ahead and hear it.
Thanks, Karine. John, you just said that these two incidents are part of a pattern of an increasing level of aggressiveness. Right. So then why was it appropriate to send two senior officials to visit China on the anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre?
A couple of things. First of all, it wasn't timed to the anniversary of the Tiananmen Square. Number two, it wasn't timed specifically to deal with these intercepts. You can imagine a trip to Beijing by U.S. officials takes some time to plan. So it wasn't timed to these events. That said, both these U.S. officials used the opportunity to raise our concern over these two intercepts that I just talked to Ed about. Absolutely raised the concerns that we had. Now, we had raised those concerns through our embassy as well, so this wasn't a new message that the Chinese were hearing. But I think you can also understand, Jackie, that particularly when times are tense, particularly when there's a risk of miscalculation, and particularly when the PLA is acting as aggressively as it is with no reason whatsoever, that's the time that you want to be able to have a conversation, whether that conversation is over the phone or face-to-face. Now, this visit was very much in keeping with our larger, longer efforts to keep the lines of communication with the PRC open, and we'll see where this goes after that.
Just have to pause it here because I'm a little bit confused with John Kirby's message in terms of what he said with CBS news reporter in our first segment, Ed O'Keefe, where he said, hey, I would love to hear from the Chinese government as to why they're pulling these maneuvers on our ships and our aircraft. But he just said that we have people there and we've talked to the Chinese before about doing stuff like this. So if we've talked to them before, then what communication are they giving back to us in terms of why they're doing it? You just said, hey, we're asking them right now. I mean, there has to be some sort of communication. At least tell us, hey, they're blowing us off. They're giving us the bird. They're giving us the middle finger, whatever it may be. But there has to be some sort of information given to the American people in terms of, hey, what is the United States government doing about this? And then what is the Chinese government saying about them doing these types of things? So I don't understand why an answer is not being given here.
Criticism, though, of the administration for sending officials on that anniversary. Was that decision a messaging misstep?
We would not call it a misstep. I mean, this was a long-planned trip, and this is the way the schedules worked out. But I think, honestly, people will be criticizing the timing of Tiananmen Square, just making a whole heck of a lot out of nothing. It wasn't time to do anything with the anniversary. And again, both these officials were nothing but candid and direct about our concerns, particularly of the intercepts. And of course, they brought up issues of human rights as well, as we always do. It's important to have these communication vehicles open. It's important to be able to have those kinds of conversations. And I think we're a whole lot less worried about the date on the calendar than we are about what's on the agenda when we start talking to them.
Hey, look, both can be true at the same time. I mean, Jaqui Heinrich's making a great point of, like, the optics of it don't look very good. And I do agree with John Kirby is that these things are planned out far in advance, but what you could have done is just canceled them going in the first place. Furthermore, if you're going to say they're having these types of conversations, but nothing's getting resolved, then what does that say about us? But also, what does that say about the Chinese, that we're just going to continue to allow them to do this, and how much respect they have for us on the other end? I'd also like to point out, you just heard John Kirby say that we're having conversations about human rights issues. That's a fancy word of saying the concentration camps and the other things that are going on in China. But if you look in terms of these people that are pushing the woke agenda, like the NBA, a lot of these sports, people, heck, even go to the corporations, they're having manufacturing done in China. They're having all these things done in China, but they're the people that are shouting the loudest. They're the ones that are shouting, America's evil, America's racist, America's oppressive, all these other things, even though they're buying products. They're buying products that are being manufactured in China. I mean, it's astonishing, the grandstanding that's coming from some of these woke libs, that you have atrocities actually taking place around the world, and they're supporting those atrocities in some way, shape, or form by supporting the country in which is performing those atrocities. It's head spinning. I mean, the same people are driving electric vehicles that are touting, climate change, all these extremists, all these things. But yet there's literally children working in mines, and they're mining lithium and cobalt and other minerals and materials to produce these EVs. It's just insane. Do you understand what I'm saying here? Hopefully you do. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. What should be done with the Chinese not shooting at us, but performing these maneuvers? Should we shoot at them just over the bow, a couple warning shots? Let us know in the comment section below. Moving into our next segment, we have James Rosen. We finally got his name, folks. Thanks to all of you in the comment section. I do read the comments. I think he's with Newsmax now. Before, you guys were telling me he's part of Fox News before. I think he transitioned over to Newsmax. Raises phenomenal questions here to John Kirby about the national security leak that took place in April, and kind of blows the lid off Joe Biden's messaging and the Biden administration's messaging and all this. Wait till you hear it, folks. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Let's go ahead and roll it.
Thank you very much, Karine, as always. Admiral, thank you. I want to ask one question about Ukraine's strategy and one question about the series of national security leaks that were first detected in early April, if I may. On Ukraine, I wonder if you could explain a little more why it is that the United States urges Ukraine against the conduct of cross-border operations. Wouldn't it be the swiftest way to bring this war to a conclusion if Russia were made to feel even a fraction of the kind of pain that it has inflicted on Ukrainian territory?
Phenomenal question. We asked this one, I think, a week or two ago. Somebody else in the room, it might have been Peter Ducey or Jaqui Heinrich, asked this very same question. Why can't the Ukrainians basically hit Russia in their homeland, their home territory? Great question here. Let's hear the response.
We have been pretty consistent about this, James. We don't.
The rationale is what I'm asking.
We've been consistent about the rationale too. I think we can all agree, no matter where you stand on the war in Ukraine, that having it escalate to be exactly what Putin has claimed it to be from the beginning, a fight against the West versus Russia, or United States versus Russia, or NATO versus Russia, is not good for anybody. It's certainly not good for the Ukrainian people. It's not good for our European allies and partners. It's not good for the Russian people. So we don't want to see this war escalate beyond the degree that it's escalated before, and that's been our justification since the very beginning.
He is telling the truth that has been their justification since the beginning. But you guys, put yourself in the Ukrainian shoes. Say somebody like Mexico, Canada, don't matter who it was, invaded the United States. And then you had basically our allies go, hey, you know what? You can only attack them domestically. You can't actually attack them on their home turf. That's insane. You guys were like, bomb the heck out of their country. Freaking level the place. It's non-existent anymore. Cease it to exist. You don't attack America. And we're supposed to sit there and be like, yeah, there's a good rationale for telling the Ukrainians, yeah, don't hit the Russians in Russia. Oh, don't do that. Oh, come on. I understand the logic he's saying here. But it's insane to me that you're not for literally another country that's being invaded by another country to protect itself by attacking the other country.
On the national security leaks, I wonder if you have today any better sense of how damaging to national security they were. I ask this because I was struck by the divergence, if you will, in your comments and those from President Biden on the subject. You came to this room and you pleaded with all of us not to publish this material, even if we came into possession of it, presumably because of the damage it would cause. And in fact, even in court filings, in the ongoing prosecution, federal prosecutors are referring to the great damage caused and the potential for greater damage. And yet we saw President Biden say that there was nothing of great consequence in these leaks. How could that be true?
Both are true. First of all, when we made those comments, it was at the very beginning of these disclosures. We didn't know the full scope of what was out there. We didn't know what hadn't been made public yet. And the classification on a lot of this intelligence gave us proper pause for concern. And I still would make the same point I made before. We would urge you not to publish this material. We don't think that this material belongs in the public domain. That said, the more we have come to learn over time, and this is what the president was referring to, is that much of the information that's out there, and I say this with the caveat, James, that I still don't think we know for sure that there isn't more coming. But what we've seen thus far, now
There's more documents?
It's a snapshot in time, a very distinct period of time, 6-8 weeks worth. And certainly
Wow.
events and
That's
follow-on
breaking
intelligence
news.
assessments have simply moved on from where those assessments were, those ones that were published. The other thing I'd say is that many of them were based on unfinished intelligence. It's no different than, in many ways, the way you guys do your job. When you get a source that tells you something, you do the right thing and you follow it up and you check it with 2 or 3 other sources until you triangulate yourselves and get where you're comfortable with what you've got, right? Well, a lot of that information was based on early reporting that had not been corroborated.
He's going to continue here, but there's more documents out there, and the United States government's not sure if there are or are not. I mean, that's so... From this Biden administration, you guys, in terms of John Kirby coming out on this podium time and time again saying, yeah, we actually just don't know. From classified documents to leaked documents here to unidentified flying objects being shot out of the sky, not being able to find them, not knowing what type of surveillance was conducted on them. I mean, the amount of times we've heard our government stand on that podium and say they literally don't know anything is actually head spinning. It makes me a little bit worried in terms of how is our United States military actually functioning? What's going on with their counterintelligence? Like, maybe I'm missing something here, but that's often what he's saying. Oh, well, we don't know. Wow. Let's see if there's a follow-up.
How can you tell us that you are not sure that there isn't more material coming? You have not turned off this spigot, even with the arrest of this airman?
What I can tell you is we can't say definitively that there couldn't be more documents out there, James. I wish we could have a different answer to your question, but that's the honest answer. Now, we haven't seen many more disclosures in recent weeks, so that's a positive, but it's not like we're going to go whistling past the graveyard and just say, okay, we're done. I mean, we're going to keep looking.
Yeah, Diana.
Astonishing. I mean, hell of a job by James Rosen. I mean, I'm telling you guys, he's climbing the ladder on our list here. So we got Peter Doocy, we got Jaqui Heinrich, we got Philip Wegman, we got James Rosen. I mean, folks, the list is climbing here in terms of reporters, and they're doing their damn job and asking great questions on behalf of the American people here. Look, under the Trump administration, we hounded them, and we still do hound them some way, shape, or form. We just saw what we did on yesterday's episode with the Washington Post as well as the New York Times. I mean, the New York Times literally said that Joe Biden was fit, sharp, and had a striking stamina. Yeah, give me a break. But that's the stuff. That's some of the messaging coming out from this White House and the administration. But let us know what you think about this in the comment section below. Do you think there's more documents out there similar to Joe Biden and the 5 sets of classified documents that were found just everywhere? Let us know in the comment section below. Moving into our next segment of the day, we have this one reporter, and forgive me, I don't know her name. I'm still trying to learn everybody's name in the room. They keep swapping in and out. She's questioning Karine Jean-Pierre here on, well, who really knows who's busting these illegal immigrants to Sacramento? We obviously think it's either Greg Abbott of Texas, Doug Ducey of Arizona, or maybe Ron DeSantis of Florida. But what's her answer to all this taking place? And are they in communication with California in terms of these migrants being bused to these sanctuary cities, these right to shelter places? And are you for sanctuary cities? Are you for illegal immigration? I'm sure I know your answer, but leave us a comment down below nonetheless. We'd love to hear from you, and it does support the show. Hit that like and subscribe button. Let's go and roll it.
Vocal about.
Can I ask you about the latest flight of migrants, this time to Sacramento? I understand
Forgive me, I said busing, flying, transportation nonetheless.
that the White House, the state authorities are investigating where that flight originated and who paid for the flight to go, whether there was some involvement by Florida. Are you in close touch with the California authorities, and do you have any initial findings now?
So yes, we are in close touch with state officials on the issue that you just laid out. Look, as you just mentioned, Andrea, there is an investigation currently happening, and so certainly we'll refer you to them on any specifics on the outcome of what they're looking at. And so I've said it many times from here, repeatedly from this podium, that busing or flying migrants around the country without any coordination with the federal government, we've talked about this, state or local officials as well, is dangerous and unacceptable, and will continue.
Do you guys know how insane that is? I'll tell you a little bit of information here that I'm sure not many people are aware of unless they've been listening to the Ball Brad show for like 2 years. When COVID-19 happened and Joe Biden was in office, Joe Biden was busing migrants to the interior of the country. And not only was he busing migrants, but he's busing migrants to these localities, and the locality would have to foot the bill for the COVID-19 tests on every bus that was transported to their town. To the point where literally some of these localities and towns had to put in an emergency fund effect because they couldn't pay for it. It wasn't in the budget for how much it was costing to basically take or inherit all these illegal immigrants. So the Biden administration did this for years, and they still are doing it. We've also had security footage, body cam footage of police department on the tarmac of airports where these planes that are unidentified are flying into these facilities where there's no lights. They turned off all the lights and literally asking, who are you? This is an undocumented plane, literally undocumented. We don't know where you are or where you're coming from. And the guy's on camera saying, yeah, we don't want this to be reported on. We're with, blah, blah, blah. We've seen illegal immigrants being chauffeured around by churches in local areas in conjunction with the federal government. I mean, to sit there and say this is so hypocritical. And I think it's playing on a lot of ignorance of the American people that don't know all those little stories from the past 2+ years because there's so much information out there. It's so disgusting. It's so swampy. It's so slimy. And I'm not going to let her get away with it, which is why I wanted to bring it to your attention.
Continue to be very, very clear about that. It is dangerous and unacceptable because you're putting people's lives at risk.
Oh, God, stop it.
And it's dangerous and unacceptable because you're actually putting a lot of pressure on these states and local areas. And so, again, we're in touch with state officials to offer any assistance that they may need, but I would refer you to them on any specifics on the investigation. Go ahead, Jeremy.
That is an astonishing answer. You're putting a lot of pressure on these localities and these states. Lady, you're the executive branch. You're supposed to execute the laws that are on the books, and you're not doing it. If anything, you're removing stuff off the books, like the Trump policies, to stop this whole invasion from happening in the first place. I mean, they are seeing 6,000 to 12,000 illegal immigrants per day in like Texas and Arizona. What about those localities in those states that you basically screwed over? And when they try to solve it, you stop them using different mechanisms from the government, like the EPA, to stop them from building makeshift border walls. It is astonishing. And then they say, oh, well, we're going to propose a whole plan to solve this whole illegal immigration thing. No, you don't. No, you want it to happen. You want open borders. And then the very people that grandstand for literally a decade saying they're sanctuary cities and right to shelter, so we give them what they want. They've been boasting about on social media and just the outlets in general for literally years, going back to the Trump administration, hell, even the Obama administration as well, that now we give them what they want, and now you're sitting there going, oh, well, it's just disgusting. It's not safe. It's really not safe. Maybe there is some truth to that. It's not safe sending an illegal immigrant to a Democrat-ran area because of the crime and theft that's taking place there. So maybe you are right on that front, Karine, but the fact is that you are spinning this and manipulating it is disgusting. It's swampy, and it's also slimy. If you agree with me, folks, hit that like and subscribe button. Leave us a comment down below because it's amazing that she's getting away with this type of stuff. Moving into our next story of the day. This is the one you've been waiting for, folks. Jaqui Heinrich, Wonder Woman of Fox News, is back again in the same press briefing, folks. Getting multiple questions in today, which is rare. We all know that one's rare. Questioning her on Nikki Haley's comments about Joe Biden running in 2024. And she basically asks her point blank, is the guy going to survive through another term? You would think that it's going to be a softball question. Wait till you hear her response, meaning Karine Jean-Pierre's response, folks. It's actually telling. Hit that like and subscribe, folks, if you haven't already. Let's go ahead and roll it.
Okay. Nikki Haley also last night refused to answer a question about whether she would sign a bill for a 6-week abortion ban if it came to her desk, saying that the administration has not yet outlined their position on whether they would sign bills allowing abortions at 37, 38, 39 weeks. Could you give us the sort of correct position of the administration in terms of what kind, if any, kinds of restrictions on abortion the administration supports?
So I didn't watch this town hall, so can't really speak to exactly what she said. What I can speak to, what the president has
Say
said,
the Hatch Act.
which is that he will continue to call on Congress to restore Roe v. Wade. And so if you know the particulars of Roe v. Wade, you see what the president stands. So I'll just leave it there for now.
And one other one.
Folks, this is not the only time that she's been given this question. One of our top videos is Peter Doocy questioning her on limits in terms of abortion and what the Biden administration thinks, and she wouldn't give an answer. So she's saying that they've been clear. Oh, they go with Roe v. Wade. Everybody's asked this for literally 2 years. Hey, like, what is Joe Biden's result on this? What's his policy? What does he believe in terms of the limitation to abortion? You can cite Roe v. Wade all you want, but there's some loosey-goosey stuff in there as it is. So just give us an answer. If it's so clear, if it's so simple, it's so transparent according to the administration, just give us a clear answer, of which she cannot, because we all know that Democrats, for the most part, the ones that are extremely far left, are for abortion literally up to the point of birth, where it's like right centimeters from the canal coming out. But, hey, that's for a whole nother conversation, a whole nother video. Here's the question, folks, we've been waiting for.
On Nikki Haley, she also said that a vote for President Biden is a vote for Vice President Kamala Harris. What do you say to anyone who is questioning whether the president would survive a full 4-year term?
So let me just say this. I'm not going to comment on the 2024. She is a candidate, so I want to be very careful here. And we do follow the Hatch Act, so we want to be really mindful here. Look, this is a president, if you look at his track record, and I'm saying this more broadly, if you look at what he's been able to do, he has been able to push forward and get done historic pieces of legislation. He has gotten more done than any other president. When you think about the infrastructure legislation, when you think about the last president, it was a joke. We were talking about infrastructure week. It was literally a joke. Now you hear this president talking about infrastructure decade. When you think about for Medicare, being able to negotiate and lower cost for Americans, that matters. That matters to the American people. When you think about actually creating jobs, good paying jobs, which is part of this president's economic policy, that matters to the American people. The president literally just was able to get done a bipartisan agreement on the budget, which many people didn't think he would be able to get done. And this president was able to get done. So look, this is a president that's been attacked during 2020, where people said, oh, he's not gonna win. He's not able to get it done. There's no way he's gonna be the next president, and he made it happen. In 2022, the same thing. There's going to be a red wave. It's not going to happen. Democrats are in trouble, and look what happened. And because of what the president was able to go and do and make sure that there was a message out there that Americans can see on what he's been able to do and what Democrats were able to do, he really had one of the best midterm outcome for a new Democratic president in 60 years. In 60 years. And so, look, I'll leave you with a quote here. Here's something that I think that was said a couple days ago. It's a Huffington Post headline. After calling Joe Biden senile, Republicans complain he outsmarted them. I'll leave it there. Okay.
Oh, perfect. We'll put that on Joe Biden's tombstone when he passes away in 2024, because you got people voting Democrat, just like you said in the midterms. Folks, she didn't answer the question. That's the tell right there. Layup of a question. Hey, is the guy going to survive another 4 years, Karine, when he takes office, or if he takes office in 2024? And she doesn't answer it. How many times have we seen these layup questions? The answer was, no, it's as we heard from the New York Times, he's fit, he's sharp, and he has striking stamina. This guy's going to live another 4 years. I mean, it's going to be tough to answer because you're going to have to be lying through your teeth to get that answer out. But easy answer. I mean, you'd be lying, but an easy answer nonetheless. Question for all of you is, do you think Joe Biden's going to survive through 2024? I don't know, folks. God, I don't know. Look, if he doesn't keel over for some sort of dementia reason or cognitive ability, it's him tripping over a blade of grass, leaving Air Force One or Marine One, whatever the hell you want to call it. Moving into our last segment of the day, we got Ed O'Keefe back again, basically following up here regarding Joe Biden surviving a 2024 run, and people saying, look, you're not really voting for Joe Biden. In other words, you're really voting for Kamala Harris, because once Joe Biden kind of cracks the barrel and goes 6 feet deep into the ground, Kamala Harris is going to be the one to kind of take his place. So really you're voting for her. And he kind of asks a weird question that's predicated on race. And maybe I'm missing it, and maybe some of you can help me in the comment section or the live chat. regarding kind of what's he talking about here, because he talks about race and sexist stuff. I don't know. Let him question.
Okay.
But to follow up on this, because the other argument that was being made in that comment by that candidate is that a vote for Joe Biden is a vote for Vice President Harris to possibly become president. Does the White House see those continued attacks from Republicans and, frankly, comments from Democrats concerned about that as sexist, racist, politically convenient?
So look,
Help me. And I really do mean this, because I don't understand why that's being interjected here from Ed. And maybe I'm missing something from the conversation or Nikki Haley's speech or what Democrats are saying, Republicans saying. I don't understand how that's anywhere sexist or racist, her basically being voted for by voting for Joe Biden. I don't know. Let me know. Help me, please.
going to be really careful. 2024,
Jack.
I'm not going to speak to 2024 from here. What I can speak to, what I'll say more broadly, is that the Vice President has been a partner. Has been a partner to this president.
hasn't done
You've heard him
anything.
say that multiple times. When it comes to difficult decision, when it comes to important decisions that matter to the American people, this is something that those are issues that the president has talked to with the vice president. And so you've heard him say that. You've seen her do that out there on the road, or whether it's even here.
You guys want a sample of what the conversation was between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? Hey, Kamala! Guess what? We're going to spend trillions of taxpayer dollars on COVID-19 stimulus checks. Oh, you got that? Perfect. That's the conversations that they have. It's just announced to her. She has no involvement whatsoever. She was the border czar. She actually flew over the border and went to El Salvador and Honduras and handed out literally cookies to people. I'm not exaggerating. We covered that here in the Ball Brad Show. That's what she did. She handed them cookies. And she said it was, it's climate and all these other things as to why they're fleeing their country, even though there's a ton of other broad countries that you can go to around there. Or you could just come here legally. I mean, how about you just follow the rule of law? But we all know with the Biden administration here, the rule of law kind of goes out the window real quick. Again, for another video, let her continue.
Here speaking to different issues that are incredibly important to the American people. So I will leave it there, but not going to go into a tit for tat. What does this mean? What is this outcome going to be? What I'll speak to is what I know here in this White House and how they have worked very closely to get all of the things that I just laid out get done on behalf of the American people.
I had one other.
Oh, on behalf of all of you guys, do you feel like you're being taken care of, huh? Getting reamed at the grocery store, at the gas pump, having illegal immigrants pour across our country. There was reports out there that there's localities, there's states that are now going to pay illegal immigrants. California is one of them. California wants to pay every illegal immigrant $300 a month. I'm not kidding. That's a real thing. Hey, they're out there taking care of you folks. All the while, our veterans are being kicked out of hotel rooms and being replaced by illegal immigrants. So who are they taking care of here? Sure in hell doesn't seem like they're taking care of American citizens as we're getting screwed with inflation. Our economy's not doing as hot as it was before, where Joe Biden just had to ride on Trump's coattails, open everything back up, and be freaking sleeping as he already is. Again, we can go on and on and on about this guy and this administration. I want to know what you think about all this in the comment section below. If I am worthy of your subscription, folks, hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button. If you really want to support the channel, go above and beyond, leave us a comment down below. Check out baldbrad.com. We got merchandise. We got mugs. You can get a signed copy of Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America. We got a copy right here for you, folks. Great book. You're seeing it in real time from the Biden administration. Hell, you saw it with Hillary Clinton under the Obama administration. You saw the Obama administration. You see it with the Biden administration here. Heck, any Democrat ran administration, both city and federally, is destroying this country from the inside out. Grab your copy of Trojan Horse. You're going to love it. For a friend or family member, folks. And with that being said, I'll see you tomorrow here on the Paul Brad Show.